We can call the work session back to order. Any other business come before us? Have a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
Kurt Smith,
Here.
Gustafson,
Here.
Perry, J.R. Smith,
Here.
Brabner, Mayor McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. As for the approval of the minutes of previous meeting, work session, September 20th, 2021. Regular meeting, September 20th, 2021. Work session, September 23rd, 2021. And special meeting, September 23rd, 2021. Are there any corrections? If not, I stand approved as written. Reports of committees and officers. Ms. Gaines,
No report, sir.
Mr. Connor,
No further reports, Mayor.
Chief Barber, Chief Few, Mr. Patterson.
No report, Mayor.
Good job. Thank you very much. Open up the floor for public participation now. If you'd like to address this council, if you please give us your name and address. The podium is open. Under announcements, Mobile Pops canceled the concert scheduled to be held at the Spanish Fork Community Center on October 10th. The art show scheduled to be held before the concert has also been canceled. We regret any inconvenience this may has caused. There is no old business. Under new business, I'd like to present ordinance number 588, 2021, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Spanish Fort, the Baldwin County Commission, the Planning Commission of the City of Spanish Fort concerning the exercise of subdivision regulations within the planning jurisdiction of the City of Spanish Fort Planning Commission. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, Senate Bill 107, which was passed in the last session of the Alabama Legislature, amends Title 11, Section 1152.30 of the Code of Alabama, which regulates and provides for municipals' planning commissions to regulate subdivisions outside their corporate limits in certain areas known as their planning jurisdiction. It authorizes the county planning commission and the city council to enter into an agreement regarding the regulation of subdivisions outside the corporate limits of the city, but within this planning jurisdiction. And a copy of that proposed agreement between the parties is attached as Exhibit 1. It is planned that the city will exercise planning jurisdiction up to 1.5 miles in most areas around the city, subject to limitations imposed by the statute based on other corporate limits of other neighboring municipalities and their planning jurisdiction. Also attached as Exhibit A is a copy of the map showing the planning jurisdiction of the City of Spanish Fort, which will be approved and agreed upon by the parties pursuant to the attached agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion for the council? As we mentioned in the work session, this has been on our agenda for quite a while, and think we finally worked through all the details and all the maps and everything that goes with it. Is it the perfect document that we wanted? No, it's not, because we had some agreements between a neighboring city and ourselves that the county really doesn't recognize, but we'll get through that down the road here. So, any further discussion on this item?
Just thank you to, was it Casey that caught the minor
Oh, yeah.
discrepancy last time around? Yeah, thank you, Casey.
And Mayor, for the record, I've said this before, as you know, our firm does have a conflict on this item in that we represent both the county and the city in certain matters.
David, we don't care if you commit a fraud. That's all right. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 588-2021.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry, J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, and let me clear something up real quick. We do care if you do commit a fraud, and I got to be more careful because I try to joke around to make this a little lighthearted, and I need to stop doing that because some people take things out of context and blow it up, and anyway, we won't go there. I'd like to present ordinance number 593, 2021, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5196 of the city of Spanish Fort, changing the zoning classification of certain property located at 31003 Spanish Oaks Drive West, Spanish Fort, Alabama, from R2 to R4. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this is a proposed ordinance that would amend the zoning classification of that property located at 31003 Spanish Oaks Drive West from R2 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to R4 Manufactured Mobile Home Residential District. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on August 9, 2021, and forwards a positive recommendation for this rezoning request. The property owner plans to put a mobile home on this property, which would be allowed by right in R4 if the property is rezoned.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council?
So it's my understanding the intention is only one mobile home, and we're not talking about multiples. Correct. Thank you.
That's correct.
Any further discussion? I'd like to announce that we have a public hearing to be held Monday, November 1st, 2021, to hear any comments in opposition to or in favor of the proposed ordinance. I'd like to present ordinance number 594, 2021, an ordinance regulating stolen and abandoned property within the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, Alabama Code Section 11-47-116 establishes a procedure for dealing with abandoned and stolen property. This ordinance basically mirrors that statute, which sets forth a procedure where the police chief becomes custodian of any abandoned or stolen property. It requires the chief to maintain a record of those properties, and after the property's been held for a period of 6 months without being claimed, it can be sold at a public auction after notice is given in a newspaper and or a posting by the city council. It requires a disposition of the proceeds. Any proceeds that are achieved from the auction are paid into the city's general fund to be directed by the city council. It also establishes procedure for dealing with firearms and how they're to be disposed of.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion on this item?
So would items that are currently in possession of the PD that were stolen or so forth that have been held for more than 6 months, would we immediately be able to do this upon approval so that we wouldn't have to wait 6 months from this approval?
Yes, once
Does
it's
that
been held for 6 months, then he could immediately go and begin to sell that property.
Thank you.
Let me ask a administrative question here. I know in the past, there's been discussion that you really couldn't take any action until the minutes from this meeting are approved. Now, is that accurate or not?
Actually, it's not necessarily the minutes being approved. If it's an ordinance of permanent operation, it becomes effective 5 days after posting. That's correct. So once you post the ordinance, then it becomes effective 5
I
days.
just know that discussion's been out
Yeah,
there in the past.
so once the ordinance becomes effective, then you have the authority to deal with it at that point in time.
And for the record, I post them the day after we adopt them at the meeting, so they would become effective 5 days after that.
All right, any discussion, any further discussion on this item?
Will you check on a vehicle at Coles that appears to be abandoned? It's been there a long time. It's on the side, by the apartment side, and it's backed in,
It's got a
And
cover
it-
on top of it.
and it hadn't moved in a long time.
That's, yeah, that's, private property though, is it not?
Is it abandoned?
There's nothing we can do unless the property owner asks us to do something, correct? Can't do that. They have to request it and have it towed off on their own. That's why you see things at the, Eastern Shore Center. You know, being private property, there's nothing we can do about it unless the property owner requests. And they have to take the service, we don't do it. Okay, any further discussion? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 594, 2021.
Second?
Motion and a second. Turn on your,
Since we're treating it as an ordinance of permanent operation, I believe you do need to suspend the rules if you're going to adopt it tonight. This is the first introduction.
okay, do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
I rescind my second.
Rescind your motion
And
and
I'll
your
rescind
second.
my motion,
Do I have a motion?
and I'll make
to
a motion to suspend the rules.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt ordinance 594, 2021.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the ordinance is approved. I'd like to present ordinance, resolution 1176, 2021, general operations budget for fiscal year 2021, 2022. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this is the general operations budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. Alabama law does not require a municipality the size of the city of Spanish Fort to adopt a budget, but that really is the most effective way for the city council and the mayor to express the policies and general scope and obligations of the city is to prepare a budget to deal with those items. The city of Spanish Fort has done this from its institution and creation. The proposed budget is attached to this ordinance this resolution as Exhibit A. The total amount of the budget is $14,904,922. Of that amount, 10% reserve and the amount of $1,311,658 is required to be set aside by state law as a reserve. Otherwise, the budget is as expressed and set forth in the attached documents to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? I would like to point out a few things. First of all, I want to thank Becky and her staff for their diligent work. This is a 3-month project to put this together. Certainly want to recognize Kim Barr as our revenue officer and her work involved in this, all the department heads. Thank you for what you do, the way you approach these budgets. It helps us all put these together. I think we need to probably reflect a little bit of where we ended up this past fiscal year, which ended last week. A few things I talked about in the work session, but I'll do it now since we're live online. Of course, our last year budget did include annual increases of 2.5% plus a 1.6% COLA for our employees. And I'm just going to go down the list that I've worked through here. Our budget last year also included $400,000 that we put towards the girls' field house. The balance of that will be in this year's budget. Remind you of what you give to the schools on an annualized basis, and I'm not speaking of the summer camps and all the extra things that we do for our schools, but just in direct school funding was $124,000, and that includes $88,000 split between 4 schools for brick and mortar projects and supply cost, $36,000 for some band instrument and supplies that they need that the school board doesn't cover. We had tremendous police upgrades going into last year's budget. We had purposely budgeted a deficit. And I want y'all to remember that when we go into the audit this year, that we purposely budgeted a deficit because we have been saving in our surpluses to offset. We knew we had some technology upgrades we needed to do. We had a bunch of cars we needed to get, servers. There's a lot of things that we had to do with police. And of course, also the fire had additional needs, so we took care of that to the tune of $1 million. A lot of drainage projects we did last year, Lackawanna, Sarah, Waits. Of course, we did our repaving projects to a nice little healthy $160,000. We paid off the loan that we had at Integrity Park. That was paid off last year. We reduced our debt here at the City Hall to approximately 8 years left on the note, to like $3.9 million. And I'm very proud of the fact the way this council has approached our finances. We're very, I would say we're very frugal. We don't spend money we don't have. The deficit spending I was speaking of, that's money we had planned to spend somewhere by saving it. We just spent more than we brought in last year, but that was to be expected. We expected to transfer out of our reserves $3.1 million. We actually ended up transferring $2.2 million, which was good. That's a good way to do it. We also had a little hurricane that came in, Hurricane Sally, of which we still owed some money by the state, which will be in this coming year budget. We really did some things for the employees last year. If y'all remember right, we removed the help fund, added that to this salary. That definitely is a big plus for them because it adds to their retirement. We also increased the city health contribution to help offset the cost for our employees. Now they have a $200 month cost versus the $700 and some odd that it was prior to that. So the city ate those things. We had a lot of expenses. Well, let me back up. On our projected income, we came in pretty well what we projected. Numbers are still coming in, so I think we're very close there on what we projected. Our expenses, here again, numbers are coming, but our expenses ended up probably somewhere between 13 to 15% under budget. So that's a good number, and I congratulate staff the way they approach and the way they react when I constantly go behind them and cut off the lights when they leave the rooms and things like that. So I appreciate staff and the way they approach all that. We'll talk about this year's budget, proposed budget. Here again, it does include a 2.5% annual raise and a 1.3% COLA. Very proud of that. We have been on line with that for a number of years. We are converting effective October 1. There's a number of Tier 2 employees. Becky, you recall how many there were at the city?
Offhand, at least half.
Yeah. Those are being converted to a better retirement program, or Tier 1, so all the city employees will be under Tier 1 effective October 1 of this past year, or this week, actually. We do have a carryover amount this year. We're budgeting $3.1 million, of which our actual carryover is going to be right around $3.6 million. So that's a good number, a plus. I do want to point out, we show revenue projections and total budgets. We projected revenues at $13.1 million, of which, automatically by law we put 10% of that behind, so that's 1.3. And then of that $13 million, what you got to realize, a lot of that is pass-through monies. For example, in our budget, you'll see a line item that has on the revenue side $2.5 million for the GOMESA funds, And then, on the expense side, you have that same amount. That's just pass-through money. So when you're talking about real dollars, you got less than $9 million to play with, of which I'm very proud of this. Our public safety eats up almost over 50% of our total budget. So that limits the pie down that we have to work from for the projects that we all want to accomplish. Would I love to do every stormwater project in this city? Absolutely, we would. Repave every street in the city? Absolutely would. But you got to be fiscally conservative, responsible, and that's the way this council has approached it, and I do appreciate that. You know, you got police next year. The demands are almost $900,000 higher than last year. You got fire that's $600,000. So the costs continue to go up. Hopefully our revenues go up, which I feel very confident in our revenues going up a little bit. Some things that we didn't consider on the revenue side that will be a factor this year. You know, your internet sales tax has been a good number for us. I mean, it was always a pleasant surprise where we ended up with that. But you know, the way the state spreads that money out, there's one lump sum that comes in the state, and they spread it out based on population, okay, which was always based on the last census, I believe. I believe that's how it worked. And now with the new census coming out, when we went from 6,000 to now over 10,000, our piece of that pie is going to be a little bit bigger. So those are good things, and I didn't budget for that increase. I left it the way it was. So that's the way, as you all know, that's the way we've always approached our budgets. We project under on revenue and over on expenses, and it's proved to have worked out well for us. Some other highlights on the budget is to complete the girls' field house that we talked about. That's about $650,000 to complete that project. 31, as we have been told by AlDOT, that they project it will be finished by the end of October. Now, I'm going to take just a point real quick here to vary from the budget a little bit. I've gotten a lot of emails, calls, complaining about the roads, about entrances in the neighborhood subdivisions. The road's not finished yet. Give it a chance. They will come in and fix those aprons coming into your streets, your neighborhoods. They will fix the roads. If you notice, it's still 1.5 inch lip in some areas. That's for the top dressing to go on and all that. So there's still work to be done along 31. But with that, in our budget, we have put in design, irrigation, planning for the areas that we can do those projects in. Of course, finished the lighting projects. We had to suspend the light installation because of conflicts between contractors, and it was best just to let it stop until the project was over, and then we'll finish the lighting and benches and those kind of things. Additional $120,000 in direct funding for schools, that being the brick and mortar and supply and band instruments that are needed. We also budgeted $275,000 in repaving for this next year, which is, as you know, how we do this. An outside agency comes in and ranks all our streets and tells us which ones we need to fix. We repair the worst first and go from there. Also very proud because the American Rescue Act, here again, that's one of those pass-through numbers of over $1 million that we'll be spending over $1 million on stormwater projects this year, which is outstanding to have that. I'm glad to see this council decide to use those funds that way. That's the most pressing item that we have in our city is stormwater management, and this is a good spend for that money. So I've been on the grandstand long enough. Anybody else want to add anything?
I do wanted to say one quick thing. You're very humble in your appreciation of what we do and the staff and so forth. I can just honestly say I've just enjoy working for you. Your leadership is just so evident, and you're the reason, and in very large part, why this budget works so well and the city works so well. And I really do appreciate all you do, and want to encourage you to keep doing it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you for those kind words, but as you know, every expenditure comes through this council, so council has to, it's got to be a team. We all have to work together to make everything smoothly go through our city. And I think that we don't have maybe some challenges that maybe other cities have. And I thank the council for the willingness to work together to pull things through. Yes, sir.
And Mayor, just to add one comment, kind of editorial, just to make sure that no one gets confused. The mayor and the council have had a consistent support of the school systems through budgeting over these years. And I want to make sure that everybody understands the money that you're talking about for the school athletic fields, the school bands, all that comes from the general fund. That's not the 3% ad valorem tax that's administered by the commission. That's money that's coming directly from the general fund of the city.
Thank you for pointing that out, David. That's a very good point. This is above and beyond what the ad valorem does produce. Any further discussion? We're going to have a public hearing on this item tonight, so with no further discussion, I'll open up the public hearing. If anyone wants to come forward, please give us your name and address. Hearing no one, public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 1176-2021.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. Bye, Kim. She's still on the clock. Bye, Kim. Thank you, Kim, for everything you do. I'd like to present Resolution 1177, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for engineering services between the City of Spanish Fort, Alabama and Goodwin Mills and Kaywood LLC. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood for design services related to the TAP grant project to extend the sidewalk on Jimmy Faulkner Drive from its termination point to Spanish Fort Middle School. A copy of the proposed agreement is attached as Exhibit 1 to the resolution. The total amount of the compensation set forth in Article 4 is $61,600 to cover the design phase and the environmental work to be done on the project.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? I have a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt resolution 1177, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? I will add, just because I'm not sure you mentioned it, this sidewalk will run from Dunlin Avenue all the way up to the middle school, going over Sibley Creek. That's the most expensive part of the project, building a walkway to the side of that to extend our sidewalks from the high school all the way to the middle school. You know, to the north of there is part of the Highlands where they have walking trails already from Doe Leaf all the way up to Bromley or thereabouts through our parks. So another piece to our sidewalk project,
I gotta
which
say,
is good.
seeing people use that on a daily basis, I see strollers, I see people walking dogs, I see young and old alike using that thing, and I think that definitely adds a lot to our city and the walkability of the city and the outdoor lifestyle. So, this is a great thing.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1180, 2021, a resolution setting forth the rules and regulations for the rental of the Spanish Fort Community Center. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the rules and regulations proposed amendments in this document have to do with an increase in the hourly rate for required police officers and fire watch personnel. That rate is being increased from $35 to $45 an hour to cover the costs and expenses associated with those personnel. Other than that, there are a few typographical and/or just changes to make things read a little clearer.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Since this is it is a difference in dollars, would you need to suspend the rules if this council wanted to do it? Because y'all keep changing the rules on me. So.
It's not city money being spent. The individuals contract privately with police and fire.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Do I have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 1180-2021.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor,
Yes, the resolution is approved. I'd like to introduce Resolution 1181, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Spanish Fort to enter into an agreement for the rental and installation of a postage meter for the city of Spanish Fort. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this resolution would authorize a proposed agreement to be executed with Quadient Leasing USA, Inc. for the purpose of providing a postage meter, software licensing, and equipment lease associated with the provision of this service to the city. The amount is $131 a month for 36 months for a total amount of $4,749.84. A copy of the lease agreement, equipment lease, software license agreement are attached to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion? This is being introduced tonight and will be on your October 18th agenda. I'd like to introduce Resolution 1182, 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama to enter a construction agreement for the Transportation Alternatives Program project between the state of Alabama and the city of Spanish Fort for the purpose of constructing the multi-use sidewalk improvements along Jimmy Faulkner Drive from Dunlin Avenue to Spanish Fort Middle School. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the city has received a grant through the Transportation Alternatives Program through the state of Alabama, which is a flow-through from the federal government. This is a copy of the proposed construction agreement. This resolution would authorize the execution of a construction agreement between the state of Alabama and the city of Spanish Fort for the extension of the sidewalk from its termination at Dunlin Avenue to Spanish Fort Middle School. The total estimated cost of the construction of the project is $796,578.75, of which the federal funding source would be 80% of those funds. The city would provide 20% of those funds in the amount of $159,315.75 based on the actual construction cost of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion on this item? This is the actual agreement between us and the state to move forward with that sidewalk project that we addressed earlier with the contract between Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. As I mentioned in the work session, a portion of this sidewalk will be in the county. I have reached out to the county, who has indicated a willingness to participate in a cost-sharing factor, so I feel good about where we're going on cost-wise on this project. Just any further discussion? This is being introduced tonight and will be on your October 18th agenda. We have a request for a 040 retail beer on and off premises license. Rail House Enterprises LLC, doing business as Blues Burgers, 29,000 Bass Pro Drive, Suite 100, Spanish Fort, Alabama 36527. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this is a proposed license from the applicant Rail House Enterprises LLC, doing business under the trade name of Blues Burgers. This is located at the Container Park at the Spanish Fort Town Center, and it is our understanding that they are changing to a different location within the Container Park to operate the business. Therefore, the license has to be updated, and this is a retail beer on or off-premise license.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? You know, that rang a bell, Mary. Remember when, many years ago, when only the Catholics would make that? Okay, did I ask for a motion in a second? Okay, roll call, please. I'm sorry, I got off track.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the request is approved. Any other business come before the council tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
moved.